Brian Stiefel, and I teach music at Westchester University, and this is the Westchester University Laptop Arts Ensemble. I tell my music students at Westchester that, and I'm only half kidding when I say all music is digital. Later today, we're going to hear a flute and a piano in this lovely space. But we all know that live music, live acoustic music, is not how we listen to most music these days. And so I'm telling my music students that it's not a matter of if you'll play digital music, but when and how. And how you as an artist will intervene on the digital signal. One is now capable of putting your little fingers on all 48,000 samples per second if you want to. It may not surprise some of you that my principal instrument is an electric guitar. And the electric guitar is teaching me how I want to use the computer to make music. So in the piece that you heard just then, the computer is synthesizing those sounds. That's not a brass sample or recording a little snapshot of a brass, but is actually being resynthesized by the computer each time I strike the key. And the accelerometers that protect the hard drive in Apple computers is being, the data from that accelerometer, you saw me moving around like that, is being mapped onto parameters of that brass sound. So I'm bending notes and controlling the balance between the accompaniment and the brass with the accelerometers. And it's possible to use other kinds of interfaces. For example, a piece I'm working on that I'm not doing today, but I'm working on a piece for dance, and the dancers are going to trigger sound using light sensors. So I'll be playing guitar, and they'll be playing music with me, and I will have to respond to them as musicians, not just as dancers. So the idea of alternative controllers is very much what inspires a lot of work in this way. The touchscreen technology and all of that is probably going to change it even more. The idea of a laptop quartet is maybe already quaint and nostalgic at this point. But I kind of think of this as it's almost like the 1977 Cutlass Supreme I used to drive with the power steering and the muscle car. There's something very elegant and efficient about being able to program that music on this and not have to network with some other computer. But certainly, alternative kinds of interfaces will change how music gets made and how music gets consumed or listened to, if you will. I am not a trained programmer. I call myself a folk art programmer. And when I show my code to people, they're like, does this work? You know, this is crazy. But I actually want to encourage my students and other musicians to feel like they can do that. That technology is something that you should be an agent in and not just a consumer of. And I think music has always been on the edge of how ideas change. And something as trivial as, you know, playing weird sounds on the computer can influence how ideas get communicated, I think. So I also really go after a mode of performance that has vulnerability built into it. You know, the Star Spangled Banner has that really high note, you know, that everybody goes up to the top, and I didn't quite get there, you know, and I could have programmed the computer to play it perfectly every time. But I actually want it to be, I want to feel insecure. I want to feel that my hand is involved in the moment. So when you're listening to people play this kind of music, you're listening to them listen in a way that, you're watching them listen, and in a way that is very, very conventional and very musical. And that's our goal. I wouldn't be a good scholar if I didn't talk about some of the people who have done so much in this field. I programmed that piece in a program called Chuck. It's an actual audio processing language, programming language, and it was designed by Perry Cook and Go Wong. And other artists like Dan Truman and Rebecca Fibrink have contributed a lot of objects and ideas. And it's an open source language, and it's a really interesting community of researchers and musicians together. And another sort of pioneer of electronic music in this area, without whom there would be no electronic music at Westchester University, Dr. Larry Nelson. And I'd like to have him come up and introduce us to his next piece. And my other two performers, Terry Conrad and Hasan Kryon, are going to perform his piece. And then we're going to hopefully play another piece after that.
Let me first say that we're delighted to be here. It's nice to be with friends of ideas and things like that. As Van mentioned, I've been doing computer music for quite some time. The first piece I did was for flute and 2 tape decks. 1 tape deck over here, 1 tape deck over here, and the distance between the tape decks made the delay of the recording and then playback work in the system. So it was a fairly simple idea, but it took an awful lot of technology and it was bound to fail. The recent versions of that use hardware delay units, or more recently, we're using a computer designing a delay system in a program called Max, and then running it with a laptop and a flutist and some amplification system. Well, today we're going to perform part of a work. The collection is called Basho Fragments, and it uses haiku from the Japanese haiku composer. And we're going to do the first section from that, and the haiku is called The Monkeys Raincoat. In order to do this piece, what we have done is to design 3 instruments, and each workstation then functions as an instrument. And each player has a set of recordings of percussion instruments and also a recording of a spoken version of the haiku, an English translation. And that is vocoded so that it comes out as the singing computer that you're probably very familiar with. So the instruments have percussive kinds of sounds, and I think of this as a kind of ritual piece, so that I wanted to involve the percussion instruments in the performance of the piece. So each of my colleagues has some percussion instruments to play during the piece too. I, at the same time, am going to be using another controller. Van mentioned that we use controllers to have access to aspects of the computer that are not readily available. I'm using a controller called a lemur, and it's a touch interface that allows me to granulate sounds, and I can, through that, pitch shift them so that they're higher or lower, play them backwards, speed them up, and a number of things like that. So this is the Monkeys Raincoat.
初しぐれ、猿も国の惜しげなり。
Thank you. This last piece I called Jargo's Table, and it was actually inspired by a piece I saw 20 years ago. It was by Vinko Globokar and had 2 brass instruments and 2 rubber tubes. And the tube of the mouthpiece was connected to the bore of the other instrument. So when a player made music, his or her sound came out of the other instrument and vice versa. The idea of computers networking, and this last piece uses a local network. We can send signals and keep the beat, things that a conductor might do, we can do. And so in this piece, we are all controlling some significant aspect of the composition. One instrument tells who's playing when, another instrument is controlling the sound, another instrument is controlling the rhythm, and another instrument is controlling the pitch. Everybody is dependent on the other. And the idea is that we listen and constantly modify our piece as a result of this kind of interchange.